Okay, as we begin lesson 5, we're going to have to style one more thing, and that's this search text box up here, this div we kind of have floating up here in the header. If we refer back to Photoshop, you'll notice we're going to have it styled to where it's down here in this little section right here, and it's going to look good right there. So we're going to style that, so we're going to go to Style Master, and look, we've already got the style. And the first thing we're going to do is we're going to add a width, just like the whole left column, like the last lesson, of 198 pixels. 198 pixels. And 37 pixels height. The purpose for that, if I go back to Photoshop, this whole left column is 198 pixels if you remember. And we only need a height of about 37 to get this spread out looking like it does. So okay, we gave it the box model of width 198 and a height of 37. And we're going to give it that background color, that kind of grayish background color of 656565. And as you see over here on the right, that's exactly what we want. Let's save it. Go back to Dreamweaver. And now you notice we've kind of got what we want, but it's kind of still floating up here. It's not down here in the image where we want it. So we need to actually add a margin, a top margin, to kind of kick it down and just place it right there. So we're going to go to Margin, make sure search box is selected, Margin, give it a top margin of about 113 pixels. Let's save that and see what it does. Yep, and look at that. There you go. See, as you see, Dreamweaver shows the margin and of 113 pixels, and it knocks it down, and it's perfectly placed. Now, one more thing we want to do is we want to center this text, because actually this is going to be a module position for our Joomla search. So we want it centered so we don't have to worry about it in Joomla itself. So I'm going to go back, make sure we're inside search box, text align, center, save it, and there we go. It's aligned to the center. And later on we'll add the margins to the actual search box and those kind of things just to get this perfectly centered. But that's it, and that's pretty much all the divs. As you can see, if we go back to our code, minus the text, the filler text we have, this is all the code we have for that whole structure. So obviously a lot better than table-based layouts, and a lot cleaner, a lot easier to understand too. And there we have it. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is install a wonderful extension. You notice up here in my version of Dreamweaver it says Joomla Solutions, and you have all these different tags here. This inserts code into your Joomla template so you don't have to do it yourself. You don't have to know the code. It'll automatically do it. So if you go, I'll go ahead and open up Internet Explorer just to show you where it's at. joomlasolutions.com. They have lots of templates, commercial templates that are very good, several commercial components. I recommend you look at this website if you never have. We go down here to the Joomla version, that's what we're using, and click on here to download the free Joomla Dreamweaver template extension. And of course it takes you to the Forge, the Joomla Forge, and then you just click on here and download it, and then you can install that extension into Dreamweaver itself. And then once it's installed, you have an extra tab up here, or depending on how your layout is, you have an extra option up here where you can insert the head code, the title of your site, all the banner code, the date, the main body, the pathway, all these different things, the footer, the search bar. So what we're going to do is first we're going to knock out all this text. We don't need that text anymore. We're going to knock it out. Let me make sure there's no other. Oh, yeah, let's knock out these paragraph tags. Okay. And so see, now we're inside the right div, or our content div, which is right here, as you can see. And we're going to insert because that's where our content is. We're going to insert the main body. If you see this button up here, insert main body. And as you see, it automatically inserts this code, moss main body. And all that is just the content. As you make articles, as you make as you link to a component, it's going to insert that into this section, this white section right here, which is exactly what we want. And actually, we want to add another one before it. And we're just going to add a user 1. You notice here it says user 1. And of course, you can type in, there's as many users and module positions as you want, but it's just simple to use what Joomla Solutions provides. So you notice again, it says load module user 1 position. So now, if you notice in Dreamweaver, the visual layout, we have 2 PHP tags, which is good. Now the next thing we're going to do is we're going to eliminate everything in this left div, because we don't need it, obviously. Now in the left div, we go up here to the Joomla Solutions, insert left module. As you can see, inserts it there. We're going to do the same thing with the footer. The left part of the footer, we're going to, let's do inset. Do it as inset. And then of course the right footer. If we look back in our view, our cursor's right here. You see the div footer. Make sure we're inside the right footer though. See, you notice when I clicked, it might look like my text cursor is in here, but it actually places it outside. So you got to make sure it's in between the right footer div. And let's go ahead and put the footer there. So you notice we have the div, and inside the div is the footer. So one more thing we need to do is get rid of this in the search box, and we're just going to do a user 2 position for right now. Save that. And there you go. We have our PHP tags in all the right places, as you can see. And now our template kind of looks a little strange, but that's okay. But it's looking good. Now the next thing we need to do, if we go to code view, you notice everything where the head is, it looks fine, but the problem is there's nothing in here that's telling it to talk to the database. It's nothing in here that's telling it that it's a Joomla template, and it needs a bunch of code that you don't need to know, fortunately, because of Joomla Solutions. So I'm just going to select all this up here, all the head, delete it, right above the body, as you can see. And right here it says insert head code. Click on it, and notice all this mesh, all this PHP code it inserts. That way you don't have to type it in, and it's done. Now the only problem is we deleted the link to the CSS file. So if you notice, we go back here, we're back to our normal block look that we had before we started styling things. So if you want to, technically you don't have to, but if you want to, just so you can see it, you can always go back here and link to the CSS, the actual CSS file, and then boom, it's back. As you can see, here's the link right there. But it's not necessary, it's just extra code, and I would recommend deleting it before you upload it. So I'm just going to go ahead and delete that. I'll show you. Right here is where it loads the style sheet dynamically. So actually right here. So it loads the style sheet dynamically, so you don't need that link because it does it for you. Okay, so we're done with that. Now the next thing we're going to do is we're going to prepare the template details XML file. What this does, I already have it open here. What this thing does, all I did was I copied this from another template, which I recommend you doing. That way you don't have to learn why you have to type all this stuff out. But what this does is when you upload it, it tells Joomla where the files are. Here's the file names. Where the images are, how many images to upload, what CSS file to install, etc., etc. You can give it a description, your email, all these kind of things. And so it's necessary for the install in the Joomla backend. So the first thing we're going to do is the name, and you always want to name it what the folder's called, which in my folder is called Joomla Nation. create date, you can give it a create date of whatever you want. I'm just going to give it a date here. The author. Copyright information. And of course you can type in anything you want to. Reserved. Author email. So then again, you can type in all these things. Your website, if you want your website. And then the version of the template, which we're just going to call it 1.0. Description, we're just going to call it Joomla Nation template for tutorials. And now, of course, now we have our file names. So the first thing we're going to start, if you notice, let's go to our Joomla template. So you notice we have an index file, a templates details file, and a blank HTML. So we're just going to type in index.php and then make sure it's case sensitive template details. .html. Okay, and then also we need to look in the other directories, and if we go to images, there's a blank index file here, and also in the CSS there's a blank index file. We're not going to do the images of the CS file itself, actually, not yet, just the HTML file. So we're going to go images / index.html, and then also CSS index.html. That way it's going to these directories, and we don't need any of these other ones. These are just extra. Now we do the images, which, let's see, we have an arrow.gif, so arrow.gif, and I remember we have a header.jpg, header.jpg, and what else we got? leftbg.gif, left, that was our left column picture that we use for our hack. And one more, small arrow.gif, which we will use in the future. Arrow.gif. Now our CSS file, it's in the CSS folder, and it's called template_css.css. And that's it. There you go. And that's our XML file to use to install. So when you install it, after you install it, a screen will pop up and it'll give you the name, it'll show the date, it'll show the author, it'll show the copyright information, the email, the website, the description, and it'll upload all these files into your Joomla database. So the next thing we need to do is actually zip it. So I'm going to select all these, send to a compressed folder. Now we're going to rename it. We don't want it to be called CSS. We actually want it to be called Joomla Nation, because that's what I named it in the XML. And there you go. You have a template ready to upload.